His Majesty, King Abdullah II ibn al-Hussein and President Lee Bollinger.
Good morning. Welcome to the World Leaders Forum at Columbia University. We are honored to be joined here today by His Majesty King Abdullah of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. King Abdullah, many of us at Columbia are sorry Her Majesty Queen Rania was unable to be here. We hope she will be returning to our campus very soon. The King is accompanied by a delegation that includes government ministers, royal advisors, and members of the Royal Hashemite Court. Among them, Mr. Nasser Jodeh, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prince Zayed bin Raid, Jordan's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Alia Baran, Ambassador to the United States, and Dr. Khalid al-Karaki, Chief of the Royal Hashemite Court. Welcome to all of you. King Abdullah, we look forward to hearing your address, the Arab Spring, time to listen and act. And we thank you for coming here to our university to share your thoughts on a subject of such importance to the entire world. The swirl of events for the past 10 months in the Middle East and Northern Africa has thrust upon us an historic moment defined by uncertainty and instability, a moment of change. To call these times tumultuous hardly captures their significance. For most of us, it is difficult to avoid experiencing such times with anything other than an alternating mix of guarded hope and sincere concern. While we cannot know where the events we are witnessing ultimately will lead, we can be certain that the consequences of the popular uprisings in the Middle East and Northern Africa will be with us for many years and decades to come. King Abdullah has stepped to the fore to address these fast-moving events. His Majesty has talked openly about the need to achieve political reform and about his duty to help lead the debate. Addressing his nation in June, King Abdullah spoke of the obligation to be, quote, discerningly aware of the difference between the required democratic transformations and achievable ones on the one hand and the risks of chaos on the other. The 42 amendments to Jordan's constitution proposed last month by a royal committee on constitutional review and presented to the nation by the king would establish greater judicial independence, expand parliamentary authority, and strengthen civil liberties. In recognition of the generational shifts taking place in his country and across the region, the proposed reforms would lower the qualifying age for parliamentary candidates to 25. Some Jordanians view these proposals as stopping short of full constitutional and electoral reform required by the creation of party-based democracy. Nonetheless, if enacted, they would mark the most substantial change to Jordan's governing structure since the adoption of the Constitution in 1952. King Abdullah has called for legislative consideration and adoption of these proposals to be completed by the year's end. As many of you know, the Columbia Global Center in Amman was one of the first global centers ever established at the university. The patron of the center, and in many ways the driving force behind it, is Queen Rania. Today, the center supports Columbia students and faculty in building bridges and scholars and researchers, artists and educators within Jordan and across the Middle East and throughout the globe. Through this work, we are gaining the intellectual capacity that will help advance not only Jordan's society, but our own. In 2009, when the Global Center was opened, with 2 terrific days of programming, we were struck by the way in which the Columbia community and other students and faculty from across the region were made to feel welcome in Jordan. This unusual level of openness and the embracing attitude we found in Amman and throughout the country did more than enrich our experience. It confirmed that the values essential to our vision of global education are shared by the people of Jordan. It is that very spirit of openness and constructive dialogue that defines this campus and the World Leaders Forum itself. King Abdullah and Queen Rania have been welcoming hosts to Columbia. Today, on behalf of our university, I am pleased to be able to return that hospitality. Please welcome His Majesty King Abdullah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. President Bollinger, friends, thank you for your warm welcome, and I am very pleased to visit this great university once again. And I am delighted to take part in the World Leaders Forum, especially at a time of such great significance for my region. All of you gathered here today are fortunate to belong to the Center of Excellence. Columbia's intellectual leadership is matched by its keen awareness of the challenges facing the rest of the world, and its commitment to reaching out to peers in my region. Lee, a man of few words and plenty of good deeds, is someone who puts his values front and center of any decision he makes, and has, along with the leadership here, worked closely, as he mentioned, with my wife Rania, to establish the outstanding new Middle East Research Center. Scholars and students are collaborating with Jordanian academics in forward-leaning initiatives. And Columbia graduates are working in vital sectors across the country. And these partnerships are absolutely essential in building bridges of understanding between your country and mine. A Native American proverb tells us it takes 1,000 voices to tell a single story. Today, in Arab lands, not thousands but millions of voices are telling the world their story. This story is of aspiration and struggle, of discontent with the past and dreams of the future. Three sets of voices are especially distinct. First of all are the voices of the unemployed. Joblessness is a global problem today, but no place is this problem more acute than in my region, and especially for our young people, the biggest youth cohort in our history and the majority of our population. Today, the Middle East has the highest youth unemployment rate of any region in the world. More than 1 in 4 young people lack good jobs, more in some other places. They are saying, we want to see accountability, we want government to respond to our needs, and their voices must be heard. The second set of voices are those of women and girls. They are a vital source of ideas and energy for our entire region. But a heavy blanket of burdens, social expectations, discrimination, prejudice has stifled their options and contributions. Yet women have been at the forefront of the Arab reform movement. Their brave faces pictured in the front lines in Tahrir Square and elsewhere, demanding open, transparent government. And they're telling us we want to fulfill our potential as citizens and leaders. And their voices must be heard. The third set of voices are those of the marginalized. These are the old and the young, the men and the women of whatever sect or social standing who have not been fully included in social, political, or economic life. They are the poor and the underserved, the isolated and the passed by. And they're telling us, give us social justice and an inclusive role in our countries with all the rights and responsibilities thereof. And they too must be heard. The Arab Spring is a new beginning for our region, but it has only been the beginning. Demanding reform is the first step. Delivering it is an entirely different and much more difficult proposition. Change is a process, not a position. And make no mistake about it, this will not be a homogeneous process, but one that is defined by each country's specific history, circumstances, and challenges. Some Arab countries have a list of Herculean tasks that most countries have taken generations to solve. How will they tackle them? What are the answers? I cannot say for sure, and I'm not alone. In fact, one of the defining features of the past year has been that of uncertainty, the big unknowns, that even the most plugged-in expert on our region are reluctant to predict. But here's what I do know for sure. Failure to change is a lose-lose proposition. Without reform, our countries can deliver less and less of what all people want. A prospering, secure future that everyone has a stake in creating. Since assuming the honor of serving Jordan in this position, my commitment to reform has been unwavering. And we have seen some real successes, but we have also witnessed resistance and inertia. The outcomes have not always been what we wanted. And that is not to say that we, in positions of responsibility, do not assume some of the blame. And give me a leader who claims that every decision he makes has been the right one, and I will give you someone who does not accept his own humanness and therefore is not fit to serve humanity. To be sure, a turbulent era has made the road to reform much tougher to navigate. In 12 short years, Jordan has witnessed an uprising in the West Bank, the attacks of 9/11, the ensuing war in Afghanistan, the invasion of Iraq, which, by the way, sending a stream of refugees into Jordan equivalent to 15% of our population and creating a huge strain on natural resources. And that's not all. There was also the war in Lebanon, the war in Gaza, and to make things more complicated, we faced multiple global economic crises directly affecting people's lives, food, energy, finance for growth and jobs. Today, we are where we are. And for me, the Arab Spring brings the opportunity to create real reform that we have sought. Its impetus for action has offered new openings for result. In Jordan, we hope the path will be an evolutionary and consensual one. We want to work together to identify national priorities and create the conditions for a better future. Fair, inclusive, and efficient governance, more opportunity, and more access to opportunity in an open, growing economy, and progress in development that serves people's needs. This revitalization process has begun. Jordan's aim is comprehensive, homegrown, structural change on multiple fronts: political, legislative, and economic. And to ensure that momentum is not lost, we have set near-term deadlines, and we're holding to them. A core effort addresses our Constitution, which is the cornerstone of Jordan's political life. Comprehensive amendments are now moving through Parliament. Key provisions establish an independent constitutional court, an independent elections commission, and safeguards for civil rights and freedoms. And we are reinforcing the separation of powers among the branches of government, as well as encouraging political participation. And corresponding legislation also includes a new election law, a new political parties law, and more. Reform is not easy, but it is going forward. And I am determined to stay the course. But this is a course that must be shared by all. Democracy is not just a system of governance, but a way of life. Important as they are, Elections are not the sole marker of freedom and progress. Democratic processes will only half serve our people if they are viewed in isolation from constitutional liberties that guarantee freedom of speech and religion, the rule of law, justice, and the protection of minorities. These are values that must define our interactions as of today. Our people must start to assemble not only on the streets, but also around party lines with well thought out political, economic, and social platforms. And only then can political life evolve and mature with participation, deliberation, and informed decision making. My friends, the Arab Spring is as much a cry to reclaim dignity as it is to let go of old systems and regimes. And Arab dignity has been wounded and left bleeding time and again by a critical issue that has fermented anger and frustration over many decades, and that is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Today, many in Israel would like to assure themselves and the rest of you that the unrest in the Arab street is unrelated to them. But the sea of change we are witnessing will forever color the nature of the relationship between Israel and its neighbors. Today, Arabs are demanding to be treated as equals, and for Israel not to be treated as the exception when it comes to international law and obligations. And the inflexibility of the Israeli stance on negotiations, settlements, and Palestinian statehood is unsustainable. As long as short-term political gains continue to trump strategic interests, Israel will continue to shortchange its people's future. What is required, perhaps, is an Israeli policy spring that will see its politicians break free from the siege mentality and engage with its neighbors as equals. A final resolution to this conflict is long overdue. And from time to time, I read my great-grandfather's reflections on the Arab-Israeli issue to remind myself just how little has changed in more than 60 years. My father, King Hussein's prayer for peace still rings in my ears. Today, I selfishly hope that peace will be ours to witness, because the Arab Spring is not about a better future, it is about a better today. Thank you very much.